man dies with a clean sword, I'll rape his fucking corpse!
Hi all. Welcome back to another report reading video. The overall subject of this video is to answer the following questions. Can a T1 city survive in the Keep 50 age? Can a T1 city win against Keep 45 and above enemy cities with between 5,000 to 7,000 power? And, even if the T1 city wins the power exchange, will the score be positive for SVS, BOG, BOC and other PvP events? These are all valid questions. And the answer to all the above questions is, yes. Specifically, yes to all the above. If it is a enemy solo attack, the T1 city still has to work out how to win against a good size rally without having reinforcements. For now, a T1 city should port away from a rally if they do not have reinforcements. Moving on. Our server did not compete with a Keep 50 in SVS yet. But we have engaged with multiple Keep 49 cities. A member of the T1 community from my server got a SVS win report after being attacked by a Keep 49. The SVS score information can be verified by using this website. svs.info. In the search box put in 592 for the server number. A page with the SVS information will show next. On this page, to the bottom right, click Week 17. Note, I am not an affiliate for this website. I am not associated with this website. And I am not endorsing this website. End of disclaimer. Now for a deeper look at the report information. The defender is 4.5 billion, and the attacker is 57.8 billion. The defender did lose more power than the attacker but still got the victory. The defender did not have any reinforcements. The defender in-city buffs are between 1,500% to just over 2,000%. Ground attack and siege HP need some work, but overall the in-city buffs are in a good place. The attacker uses solo ground march. The attacker ground buffs are very good. Ground HP is 5,280%. Ground defense is 4,473%, and ground attack is 6,409%. The attacker, in my opinion, is a high-level coiner. The city looks to have the Egg Garden Bunny decoration that you get from a King's Party event. This city decoration has buffs for research speed and reinforcement capacity. But the majority of support is for ground troop buffs. I was able to get the lead general info by looking at the enemy side of the server war event page. This is the attacker's lead ground general. The attacker has a 10-star Lorenzo de Medici, with the 5th specialty called Breaker Legions. The gear setup takes advantage of the two-part set buffs from Aztec Civ Gear, Virukazan Civ Gear and Antonine Civ Gear. The gear refines are between 25.8% to just over 29% for only ground troops. Notice the attacker has a perfect gold ground HP 30% refine. This is a great example of high-level focused refines for ground troops. This is an Excel graphic of the attacker march setup. Let's start with the counter layers. The counter troops' one job is take away turns and absorb damage so the main attack troops stay alive longer. The attacker uses 1,500 troops for every counter layer. Next is the main attack troop. The main attack troop one job is maximize damage to the target while not getting zeroed in the process. The main attack troop is 5 layers, from T12 ground to T16 ground. As you can see, these 5 layers account for the majority of damage sustained by the defender and city troops. But far too many of the attacker troops ended up as deserters or wounded by the end of the battle. In the end, the defender won. Before I continue, let's take a look at the defender's wall combo. Things to note. 1. All the flat refines from the wall gear and wall dragon focus on mounted troop stats. 2. On the lead wall general and the assistant wall general is the 5th specialty item, battle tested. Each battle tested contributed 500 flats to all troop attack stat. This means mounted troop attack stat got 1,000 flat buffs from the 2 battle tested. 3. The wall gear is split between forge gear and civilization gear. 2 parts are choreo civilization gear. 4 parts are Apollo gear. Now to the battle report, presented on an Excel sheet. First is the siege layer. The siege layer killed 80,446 enemy troops. The combined wounded and deserter count is 67,233. The entire siege layer is designed to be a counter layer. The in-city siege layers had almost no wounded because the siege troops stayed on the map edge. The exception being siege T1 to T4. Reminder, the battle grid, the distance between 2 PvP enemy cities, is 1,500 units. T5 and above siege, as a group, have over 1,500 range and do not need to move forward on the grid. This group, T5 and above siege, can from the start of the battle, start to attack any troop on the battle grid. T1 to T4 siege, as a group, have the same 1,400 range and they move forward toward the enemy. T4 siege, in the T1 to T4 group, is the highest tier. The enemy march will hit the highest tier within the engagement zone first. End of reminder. At this moment in the battle, the defender T4 siege wounded plus defender count is 67,233, because T4 siege are singled out and targeted by the enemy T5 and above siege counter layers. I do not think the enemy ground attack march had enough turns to reach 50 unit distance between themselves and the defender siege counter layers. Said another way, the attacker ground march did not move forward enough to engage the defender siege. Next is the range layer. The range layer killed 734,347 enemy troops, and had only 1,501 wounded. Only T14 range got some wounded. Range troop, T1 and above, all have the same 500 range. They all move forward, but T14 is the highest tier, so they get hit first in this group. Let us call this the halfway point in the battle. At this point, the things to note: defender in-city siege layers T5 and above, no wounded. Defender in-city siege layers T3 to T1, no wounded. Defender in-city range T13 to T1, no wounded. The main question is, why only defender in-city T4 siege and in-city T14 range got wounded? Why did the attacker march target only these two specific troop tiers? My best guess is this: proximity and highest tier factors change the attack priority as the battle takes place. My thought process: T1 to T4 siege, on both sides, move forward toward their 1400 engagement zone. The defender T4 siege troops are the highest tier and closer unit when it comes to the proximity of T5 and above siege. So the attacker T5 and above siege single out and target the defender T4 siege. This results in the defender T4 siege wounded plus deserter count of over 67,000. Before the defender T4 siege wounded and deserter count moves past 67,233. The defender range troops, T1 and above, moved forward enough in proximity to where the enemy siege change attack priority to range. The proximity factor is this: the defender T1 and above range move forward on the grid past the defender siege T1 to T4. The defender range troops are all at the same distance and are now closest to the enemy siege counter layers. The defender siege T1 to T4 are no longer the closer units to the enemy siege. The highest tier factor is this: the defender T14 range are the higher tier. Now, because of proximity and being the higher tier, the defender T14 range tier is singled out and became the new enemy siege counter layer target. The proximity and high tier factor is the reason. The defender T14 range wounded plus deserter count equal 1501. For this specific PvP battle, my assumption is this: what happens to the front guard, range and siege is the first half of the fight. What happens when the rear guard, ground and mounted, get to their engagement zone is what determine the end of the fight. This is what I think happened in the last half of the fight. Before the defender T14 range wounded plus deserter count pass 1501, two things happen. Thing 1. The in-city ground and mounted moved forward enough to kill the front guard part of the attacker march. Thing 2. The in-city ground and mounted continue to move forward to kill the rear guard part of the attacker march. Because ground and mounted units have the same 50 range, all tiers made contact with the attacker march. This explains why at every tier, the defender in-city ground and in-city mounted recorded wounded or deserter troops. Note: this is my best guess as to how the different parts of the armies engage each other on the grid. But, what do you think happened on the battle grid? What happened during the battle to cause these three outcomes? Outcome 1. Only defender in-city T4 siege got hit. Outcome 2. Only defender in-city T14 range got hit. Outcome 3. Every tier for ground and mounted got hit. How did the battle play out in your head? I look forward to reading the comments. One more point I want to make clear before I move on. I think the win factor for this specific battle happened where the defender range wounded did not get past 1501. The defender ground and mounted had enough turns to engage the attack march. And the mounted had enough flat buffs to finish off the enemy attack after the ground layer was zeroed. The ground layer just so happens to be the next item to continue the video. The defender in-city ground troops killed 7,210 enemy troops, and had a combined wounded plus deserter count of 4,941,141. Yeah. The in-city ground troops got zeroed by the end of the battle. Notice the in-city ground buff, and the enemy ground debuff. The defender in-city ground attack is 1,545%, while the report shows 772% for the enemy debuff. The defender in-city ground defense is 2,003%, while the report shows 1,001% for the enemy debuff. The defender in-city ground HP is 1,896%, while the report shows 948% for the enemy debuff. the enemy city developed enough debuffs to cut the defender in-city ground buffs in half. A side note before I continue, I have observed this ground layer issue in other reports. The question's in my head. How to fix this issue? How to minimize the in-city ground troop layer damage? How to make in-city ground troop more resistant to getting zeroed? My 3-step solution. Step 1. Put ground HP flat refines on the wall dragon. Step 2. Monarch gear is all ground crowns that have flat buffs. Step 3. Battle tested with all troop attack 1000 on the wall lead general and the assistant general. My theory is this. If the in-city troop HP stat cannot be cut into half, then the in-city troops can survive longer to continue the fight. If the in-city troop attack stat cannot be cut into half, then the in-city troops can wound or kill more of the enemy march. Said another way, ground layers supported by flat HP buffs and flat attack buffs still have the ability to fight, even when the enemy has enough debuffs to cut the in-city ground buffs in half. The goal is to keep the HP and attack buffs over the halfway point long enough to win the fight and not get zeroed in the process. This is the theory I am testing out. So what do you think? Have you observed the same in-city ground issue on reports you own? What do you think of the solution to prevent the in-city ground layers from getting totally zeroed? Look forward to your feedback in the comments. Now for the mounted layer. Mounted troops are the main in-city kill troop, supported by flat buffs. The in-city mounted troops killed 10,248,390 out of the 11,049,250 troops sent in the enemy march. The majority of the enemy march is ground T12 to T16. These 5 layers of the enemy march accounts for 9.4 million of the 11 million troops sent by the attacker. By the end of the battle, the attacker's survived count is just over 1.5 million troops. Said another way, 1.5 million troops out of 11 million troops surviving is a very bad day. Barely survived is a kind way to put what in my eyes looks like a suicide mission. The mounted layer did its one job, which is kill the enemy march as fast as possible without getting zeroed in the process. Unfortunately, there is some bad news. The defender win had a price. The in-city wounded and deserter count for T1 mounted troops alone is 820. 4,571,675 troops. More than half the T1 mounted gone in one shot. The solution to this problem is train to own 2.14 billion in-city T1 mounted troops, and train a minimum of 500 million for T2 and T3 in-city mounted troops. Now the good news. This defender made top 3 with a net positive SVS score. To all the players working on T1 cities, hope this is a inspiration to continue the grind. Grind your ass off. Focus on the T1 path, and get it done. To those saying T1 cities have no place in the Keep 50 age, I have 4 letters for you. F, A, F, O. My last thoughts before I end the video. To players designing a T1 city in the Keep 50 age, the T1 mounted layers must have the 2.14 billion max. The T1 mounted is your main in-city kill troop, but mounted troops alone are not going to win in the Keep 50 age. You will need to have support go towards more than one in-city kill troop. The idea being, these 2 in-city kill troops will split the workload of stopping the enemy attack. This particular defender city did the following to split the workload. Mounted is the main kill troop supported by flat refines on the wall gear and wall dragon. Range is the secondary kill troop supported mostly by Zachary Taylor and additional help from William Marshall % buffs. On the Excel graphic you can see, mounted has the most kills, range has the second most kills. Range and mounted split the work of killing the enemy march. For my city, I split the workload by doing the following. Mounted is the main kill troop supported by flat refines on the wall gear. Ground is the secondary kill troop supported by flat HP refines on the wall dragon. Ground and mounted split the work of killing the enemy march. Note, I am not saying mounted and range is the only way to split the workload, and, in no way am I saying, ground and mounted is the only way to split the workload. What I learned, and what I want to pass on, is this. Design a T1 city where the workload is not on one kill troop. Food for thought. When T17 troops become a normal thing on the battlefield, do you think T1 cities will need to split the workload between 3 in-city kill groups? All the things I learned analyzing battle reports and preparing for enemy T17 troops helped me put together the following plan. This is my T1 city to-do list before enemy T17 troops. 1. Add T15 range and T15 siege to my counter layers. The goal is to delay the enemy march a few more turns, while giving the in-city ground and mounted more time to move forward to the 50-unit engagement zone. 2. Push for Keep 43 to get Academy level 43, then open and max the defensive research. The goal here is more defending % buffs. And note, there is some mounted flat buffs. Part 3 of the plan is, push for more reinforcement capacity. Work towards maxing Champion Helen. Helen's champion skill called Love Song and Aegean adds reinforcement capacity. Get Triumphal Arch level 2. The 20% apply specifically for Battlefield. The 6% apply to events outside of Battlefield, like SVS, KE, and any attack not in a Battlefield event. Last thing on the free-to-play reinforcement list is eventually get the ABBA's full set. The own full set buff is unconditional reinforcement capacity 20%. For those with some spending power, you can do the following. From the Seal Imperial Treasure event, get the Syriacus City decoration. Syriacus City, owned to activate buff, adds reinforcement capacity 20%. There is also the Titan Temple City decoration. Here it is a used to activate condition. It adds reinforcement capacity 20%. I would guess if you own both you can stack these reinforcement capacity buffs. At this point, I do not know where you can get the Titan Temple, and I do not know the price for the Syriacus City, or the price for the Titan Temple. Moving on. Number 4. Have Celtic Demon as my wall dragon. The goal here is, get more range troop % buffs by maxing Celtic Demon Talent 1 and Talent 2. Talent 1 and Talent 2 have unconditional range attack and range HP that apply to in-city range troops. I know Thebes is the normal wall dragon. I know I will be giving away additional siege buffs, ground buffs and hospital capacity, but my designs support ground troops with flat HP. And siege layers, at this time, are used as a counter troop. T1 city design cannot be based on normal. We need to think outside the box. Range buffs are more important to me than what the Thebes dragon offers. I know what most conventional thinkers will post in the comment section. Why not have Thebes, and use 2 unconditional range generals for the wall combo? The unconditional combo will have more % over Celtic Dragon. That is a true statement. And the normal way of thinking. But remember, a T1 city does not have to follow the status quo, so sticking with the outside of the box thinking leads me to part 5 of the plan. Instead of 2 generals as the wall combo, have 2 debuff mayors as my wall combo. More in-city % buffs will come from other areas like Choreo Gear Advance Refines, Academy Defensive Research, Blazon Development, and Wisdom Dome upgrades. There are many more places I have not listed, where you can develop in-city buffs. But the list of areas to get more debuffs is very limited. I think having 2 more debuff mayors will add an advantage. So this is my plan for enemy T17 troops. Okay, that is it for this video. I look forward to reading your feedback in the comments. Hope this helps the T1 community on their Evony adventure. Have a great Evony day to all.